Hello everyone, welcome to the Bucket Bag Craft Kit Workshop. In this video we'll be making our lovely bucket bag and explaining step by step all the processes to make your Mattox bag. So in your kit you will have everything you need to make your bucket bag. So let's go through all the items that you'll have in your kit. So you will have a free dust bag that you can keep all your tools in, and when you finish your bag you can add your bag to the dust bag and keep it protected. So inside your dust bag I will often add all the tools so they don't damage or scratch the leather. So you will have pliers. This is what you will use to add your hardware and your locks, and you can use them again if you have any future craft projects or leather work that you'd like to continue with. You will have a small bag that will contain a screwdriver, cocktail sticks just for adding a bit of thread locker inside some of the screws, and you'll have a little sample pot which contains the adhesive that we will use to lock some of the screws. You will have Chicago screws, so you'll have the fronts and the backs of those screws, which will explain how we use these later. And you'll also have your hardware and buckles for your strap, and also the chrome plated locks, either in silver or brass depending on what you've opted for, which have multiple pieces inside. Also you'll find in your dust bag, just hidden inside, are 2 pieces of leather for the strap that we'll make towards the end of this video. So I'll just put that to one side for now. And I'll put the dust bag to one side for now. We can use that later on. And you will have this piece which has the logo embossed on in either silver or brass, depending on your hardware choice. You will have this unusual looking piece which will be the base for our bag, which will fold around and will join with the Chicago screws that you have in your pack. You'll have this small part which I'll explain shortly, which is going to help us make a 3D shape. And we have the main body of the bag. So let's move this box out the way. Now we're all ready to get started. The first piece that we need to focus on is the flap. This corresponds to this part of the bag, and this is where our locks go. So we're looking for these 2 holes to start with, and these 2 holes. All the others we can ignore for now. So we just want to focus on these 2 and these 2. And to begin with, we are just going to focus on these 2. So what you need is the bag that has your lock pieces inside. There's 4 pieces in total. So let's look at them a bit more closely. So you'll have this part which has a clip on one side, which corresponds to this part of the bag. So this is the locking mechanism that will push and lock inside. So we want to use this one first, and this also goes with this prong shape. So the other 2 parts we're going to use in the next step. So we just put them to one side, and let's focus on how to attach these 2. So these locks are Italian made, And when they are made open in this area to fit lots of different thicknesses of leather. So our leather is about 2.6 to 2.8 thick. So we just need to close this over, just judge it by eye, just so it fits this leather part snugly. So you want to slide that over and you want it to be gripping the leather quite tight. So it shouldn't fall off when you've placed it on. It should be gripping the leather quite tight. And throughout today I'll be mostly working on the right side of the leather, which is the side with the colour on. The other side can be a range of different colours depending on which leather you've chosen. It'll either be black or tan. So this is the inside of the leather, which is called a resin backed leather because it's been finished on both sides with a resin. So you'll notice these holes from the lock and the leather line up, and this prong can now slide through those holes from the right side of the leather, and they will stick out from the back of the leather. They are quite sharp, so be careful. We'll also use our pliers now, and we want to close the pliers, and the side we want to use is this longer flat side. So we don't want to use pliers this way with the width, we want to use the length of the pliers on this long side. And you want to put that to the side of the prong at a right angle. So we want to push down and over to fold that prong over. And the prongs need to fold towards each other, not the opposite way. If we do them the opposite way, the hardware will eventually wiggle about and work its way out. So we want to fold the prongs towards each other, like so. If it wiggles a small amount, you're okay. If it's wiggling a lot, you probably need to push down harder. If you feel you want to give that another go, you can use the edge of your plier to undo your prong. It's very difficult to get right first time. So just use the edge of your plier just to open that prong again. And if you've got a bit curly, you can flatten them out with the pliers. And you can do this multiple times until you're happy, or if it's too loose, you can try it again. So again, I'm trying to keep a right angle to the prong. I'm pushing downwards and folding across. I'm standing up because I'm also using my body weight. You do need to push harder than you would think to get a really secure connection. So give it a go a few times. Hard to do your first time. Second or third time, you probably have no problem. So that's the lock that's going to slide into our push lock mechanism. So the next bit we want to focus on is this part, because eventually when it's a 3D shape, this flap is going to slot into that lock. So now we're focusing on these two holes and the two pieces of hardware that are left from your pack. I'm just going to try and pick that off the table. So now we are focusing on these two parts. So I have the leather on the right side, and you'll notice on this circular lock that it has a bar closer to one side. This bar should be closer to this part of the bag. So I want to put it in this way, not this way. This way will also work. It's just going to pull the flap further down and it might be a little bit tight. So to avoid that, we would have it this way round. So we can push that through. The prongs on this are quite sharp, so we can push that through those holes. This back of the lock is rounded. That's the side that we want to see. We don't want to use the other side as it's more sharp, has more of a sharp edge. So we want the nice rounded side that's not going to scratch against our hands or our items inside the bag. And this part is a bit more tricky because it has the bar underneath. So we need to do the same thing again. However, I would recommend holding it over the edge of a table or a box. So I'll demonstrate on this box, and this could also be the edge of your table. So we can put the bar over the edge of something so we can keep things flat. This allows us to again push down and across, moving the prongs towards each other, the same as the other one. Just run your hands across, and if you feel any spiky bits, just push them down. Now this makes a really secure fitting, and it also means we can now start to think about constructing the 3D part of our bag. So what we need now is our Chicago screws. We have the finished side, which is also the female part of the screw, and we have the back, which is the male part of the screw. We will also need our other tools, so our screwdriver, our cocktail sticks, and our small tub, which contains a small amount of wood glue, which we use in leather as a thread locker instead of a solvent-based thread locker, which damages leather instantly and stains the leather. This wood glue inside you can wipe away instantly if you have an accident and you get it all over your bag. It's not a problem. So the first area we need to work on is this side and this side, together with this piece of leather. We are going to turn this into a lampshade and join it together with this piece on the inside. So these holes correspond with these ones here. Ignore the bottom one and ignore the top one on the body of your bag, just the ones in between. This one's for later, that one's for later. So what we need to do is our finished side of the Chicago screw, that will either be chrome plated silver or traditional brass. Pop them in to these holes, omitting the top and the bottom one. They will fit perfectly over these holes, and we just need to work from the other side now. So you'll see how well they all line up And what we want to do now is just a small amount of wood glue inside the screw, not on the leather. If you get it on a leather, no problem. So just a tiny amount. It's just going to lock the screw within about 25-30 minutes. So just do it bit by bit. Don't add the glue to the screws in advance because it might dry inside. Now we can just hand wind to begin with our screws to attach this piece of leather, like so. I'm going to work quite quickly in this video, so do pause the video at points because I am not going at normal speed. I'm working quite quickly on this bag today. So they've all been winded on by hand, and you want to tighten them up as far as they'll go. Sometimes I'll just hold the back of the stud as I'm tightening it up. And there we go. So now we have our leather lip joined on.